Hello, everyone. So, my name is Bryce. I'm not the type of guy to ever ask for favors or handouts, but I am at the stage where I'm kind of struggling to make ends meet, and everything is kind of piling up all at once. So, let me kind of guide you of what has been happening as of lately. So, last September, a few friends and I decided to go and protest a couple times at the well known apartments in Aurora, Colorado. Let me remind you that we were the only people that protested because of the violence that has occurred at these apartments off of Dallas and 12th that gained national media attention due to the gang very well known as Tren de Agua, which is a Venezuelan gang that quote unquote took over a few apartments here in Colorado. The first time we protested, everything was just fine. We hung up our signs. I openly carried, which are legally are allowed to do in Aurora, Colorado. No cops were called. I gave a tour to everyone on my Facebook Live about what has been occurring at these apartments and how bad they turned out over a span of a couple of years, and I headed out after a couple of hours of being there. The following week, my friends, my wife, and I decided to do the same thing, but when it was darker outside so everyone could see the nightlife of what occurred at these apartments. We went over there to hang up more signs and openly carry again, which, like I said, you're legally allowed to do in Aurora, Colorado, but things kind of took a drastic turn this time around. We were approached by the residents this time and asked questions about why we were there, and so my friends that speak Spanish kind of gave them a heads up about why we were there and how we were there for the innocent families that had to endure this trauma that was put onto them due to this gang or these other individuals and our current administration that put these people into this complex. This administration didn't take these gang members and these other bad individuals out of these apartments in a good fashion that could have ultimately prevented these other great, hardworking tenants from getting kicked out indefinitely or to be forced to move out due to health and safety concerns. For those that don't know, yes, the landlord was a slumlord, but even when they had a property manager, the property manager was also beaten and told to move out of the apartments or he and his family would be put in danger. I grew up in the same neighborhood as well for about 18 years of my life and still care about the neighbors in this area and their families till this day, even though I don't live in the area anymore. To have these people in this area worry about gunshots possibly hitting their house or them or their families or their child roaming around the neighborhood and possibly picking up one of these dirty needles or maybe even something worse happening to them around this complex is just terrifying. I was also worried about my handicapped mother and grandmother as well, of possibly being in danger because all it took was for these certain individuals to go a few blocks up the street and do God only knows what to them. They did terrifying things to the people that lived in the same complex as they did. They kidnapped their own neighbors, shot at their own neighbors, robbed their own neighbors, killed their own neighbors, and kicked out and threatened some of their own neighbors. And some people in the neighborhood honestly thought they wouldn't do the same thing to anybody else, which is just crazy to me. I did what I did to stand up for my old community because it was being terrorized by these certain individuals. But on that same night that we were approached by these tenants, we were also approached by the Aurora Police Department, the gang unit, the K9 unit, and I'm pretty sure there were a couple federal agents there as well. Well over 20 officers for only 7 of us, and only 3 of us were booked and charged with different things. I was charged with disorderly conduct for using my Second Amendment right, because I guess my weapon on my hip supposedly caused such an alarm in the neighborhood that everyone was supposedly scared for their lives. So they booked my wife, my friend, and I for over 8 hours till we bailed out. What's crazy is that I talked to someone that used to live at these complexes for years who was moved away from this complex because of how dangerous it had become and for their own safety. They called the police about these other individuals, certain individuals, for carrying their weapons outside one night at the complex and that they were worried about these people outside and that they were possibly going to do something bad. But the Aurora Police Department told them it's not illegal for them to carry their guns here in Aurora, Colorado, and just waved it off. And then that's funny because they booked and charged us for legally carrying our weapons. They were all registered. They were all legal. They were all under our names. And guess what happened? The group of armed men shot up the entire block, which resulted in someone dying that same day. They also thought I was wrongfully arrested after watching the videos that I posted and also thought these charges against us would be dismissed immediately, and unfortunately they weren't. My lawyer believes that I did nothing wrong and that I'll win my case because we didn't threaten, intimidate, brandish our weapons, yell at others, or hurt anyone in any way, shape, or form. You can see most of the video on my TikTok account, which is my TikTok account is Daddy Bryce 16. It's DADDYBRYCE 16. That's on TikTok. It's not the best quality of video, and I didn't really edit the videos properly because of me pulling it from the live feed, but hopefully you can see what we did and ultimately decide what we did wrong, if we did something wrong at all, which most people believe that we did not. And most of the videos are in Spanish, by the way, so if you don't speak Spanish, you won't really understand what they were saying. I've also talked to other police officers, lawyers, influencers, and friends and family members, and they also believe that we were all wrongfully arrested when we were there in good faith, just using our First and Second Amendment rights. And most of these people that believe that we were wrongfully arrested are also Democrat, which is crazy because most Democrats are so against guns, if you did not know, especially here in Colorado. A lot of these people are scared of guns because of everything that has happened in our past over here in Colorado, and I totally understand why they are, because a lot of it was tragic incidents that happened over here, unfortunately. And the only downside about this, and this is why I'm posting the GoFundMe for the first time in my life, is that lawyers are expensive. And a month after getting charged with this crime, I found out that I was having my first child. And a couple weeks after that, I was also involved in a rollover accident while on the job because my coworker lost control of the van when we were on our way to one of our construction sites in Colorado Springs, which also caused me to go on temporary total disability. I'm normally a hard-working, blue-collar man and a go-getter, but at this point in time, I can't do anything because of me being on restrictions, etc. And I'm not making as much as I was, so I can't afford my lawyer to go all the way through trial for me at this point in time. The bad part about it is that they didn't even give me a public defender because supposedly my wife and I make too much money to receive one, which is total nonsense because we're barely able to get by at the moment. I'm just hoping and praying that some First and Second Amendment right advocates can come in and save the day and help donate enough money or resources to get me through trial to fight for my rights as a U.S. citizen. My wife doesn't really want to be a part of it because our baby is due in July, so she's going to take the offer. My friend, on the other hand, also has a lot going on, so I'm not so sure if he's going to try and take it to trial as well. And if I don't make enough in donations to pay for the lawyer, I'll refund everybody that donated to this cause. I have to call GoFundMe to get them to refund you, and I'm not so sure if it's possible for you to get the full amount refunded back due to fees and stuff. I'm not so sure how that works. And if I make more than what my lawyer is charging me, I'll donate the extra money to others that are dealing with the same thing as us, or to a nonprofit organization that is actually there for the community to prevent these things like this from ever occurring in the future. If you can please share this around as well, it would be greatly appreciated. The plea deal I just received was a deferred judgment, 12 months of probation, 10 hours of community service, and forfeiting my weapon, which I don't believe that I should do when we didn't threaten anybody with our weapons. My wife and I also didn't have a criminal background before this happened to us. We have to make up our minds about whether to accept this plea on March 21st, which is this Friday of this week, at the Arapahoe County Courthouse. And unfortunately, if I don't receive some sort of help, I would have no other choice but to plea, which I personally don't want to do. I personally believe that I should go to trial because they don't even give this offer to real criminals half of the time. They give them a quick timeout in a detention center and get told not to do it again, just for them to be back in the detention center the next day with no consequences, which is the sad reality here in Colorado. I guess now I know better next time that if people in my community are suffering, it's probably not or best just to stay inside and stay away from the drama. Unless if I win this case, which I'm almost certain that I would after presenting all of my evidence from multiple sources, then I'll continue to stand up for what's right if something like this were to ever happen again, which I hope and pray to God that it doesn't. It's just crazy that you could try to stand up for your community and try to do the right thing, but be charged for trying to be brave for doing what others won't do. The officers that responded that night didn't even know what to charge us with at first. One of the lieutenants in the police department that night said that he would quit the police force and join our cause. The correction officer at the jail stated that he didn't even know why we were dealing with this and believed that they only booked us to put us on a watch list, and that's a crazy situation to be in. During a video on our discovery, the person that was calling the shots of what to charge us with over the phone stated to the other officers on the scene that if they got proper charges to hook us and book us because they didn't want other people to come and do the same thing that we did. They wanted to stop all of us from standing up for what's right, in my opinion, and we were ultimately the example because they knew that they did this to our own community and didn't stop it until February of this year of 2025 when they finally shut down the whole complex. If you don't know the whole story yet, please look up the Edge at Lowry Apartments in Aurora, Colorado on Google. There's a lot of crazy fun facts on there for you guys if you guys want to really look it up. If we continue to let these officers or elected officials abuse our rights as United States citizens and let them get away with it, the more they'll just continue to do it. So let's hope my case is an example of us coming together as a community to stop this corruption within our own government and hopefully teach them to not be locking up innocent people and to go after the people who are actually doing this criminal activity within these certain communities. Imagine if all of this was by your house and they were doing this to your community. I bet you would have done the same thing as my friends and I, or would want someone else, such as your local police officers, to come and put an end to it. There has been more than 100 phone calls that came out of this community within a 6-month time frame, and the people that are supposed to be there for us didn't do much to stop all of it. A lot of us were frustrated that this was happening here in the United States. Even people out of the state were upset that this was actually happening and wanted someone to put an end to it. I can't say that a few others and I didn't try to stop this violence and stand behind the innocent civilians in this complex, and unfortunately caught a case when we didn't do anything wrong but use our First and Second Amendment rights. Thank you everyone for all your support, and sorry for the long message. Have a great day.